So I think that 6.5 kind of seeks to address some of what we were talking about with the previous section, the previous article that we were discussing, that this would perhaps make it easier for the athletic director to, or at least for us to delegate responsibilities in the event that there is a conflict with events.
So what is the current policy regarding compensation for?
I'm not sure. We talked somewhat about, like, I think you and I talked about, like, that if we, how to make it so that there was extra personnel, and this was kind of based off of that discussion somewhat. I'm hesitant to be like, because I know that the way it was kind of, I thought, explained to me is like if we had a pool of, say, and just using made up numbers here, $10,000, this is the stipend for athletic directors, $10,000. It will give you $7,000 outright, but the other $3,000 we'll keep in an account, and you can only have it if you go to this game and that game. That doesn't make sense to me for a lot of reasons, and it also, so it would make better sense to me just to be like, okay, athletic director gets $10,000, and then in the event that he can't be at something for whatever reason, whether there's 2 games going on at the same time or something else is happening, that we can have the availability of somebody there that can help out with it. Particularly where if it's required by the state, or if there's a large crowd or a large number of people where the management is going to be difficult.
It's also a way to mitigate liability if something happens.
No, expand on that, please. No.
Well, so for instance, like there's an athletic event according to IHSA rules, you have to have somebody watching the kids in the crowd, and they have to have certifications for first aid, blah, 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 right? Well, if somebody is there not to watch the crowd, which is typically the athletic director, it falls to the coach. And the coach is watching kids. So if something happens, it's on the coach, even though they were busy watching kids. And if you had somebody there to help manage crowds according to HSA rules, well, you met that requirement. And my guess is those rules have something to do with being sued. Just my wild guess.
Well, I think in our district policy, I think we already have a deal where we have to have somebody at each home game going.
That doesn't happen.
I think it's in policy, but we have, we pay people for game duty if the AD can't be there.
But sometimes nobody's there.
We have events, mostly springtime.
Yeah, springtime's the problem.
Yeah.
So we'd like a mechanism to address that. It's in the district's.
Let's talk specifics. Like, are we talking about track or baseball, or what are we talking about? Softball?
Well, I think all 3.
All 3?
Yeah.
Some of those
I think the spring sports are the ones where it's a problem. Or any time that there's multiple sports going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when it creates an issue.
There were several days in the spring where there's 3 events scheduled on the same day. And that's what happens. It just happens.
Because it's hard. I can say that, if something does happen where a kid needs to be transported, or, there's something that comes up with, missing equipment, or we can't just leave, and that's, and leave things unmanaged. And so there's some, having somebody who has some authority on behalf of the school to be able to say this is not appropriate, or anytime that there's conflicts too, that's
So are you just referring to home events, or are you referring to all events?
So according to.
home. I think
Home.
home is the only,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
'Cause I
my,
don't think that it's required for away except for districts and state.
I think if I might be wrong, but off the top of my head, I think for state and district stuff, the state provides the crowd control. I might be wrong on that. This would be for home games.
So currently, we pay a stipend for people that help out at games.
Yeah, it happens in, it doesn't happen in spring. It happens in fall and winter. It doesn't happen in spring.
So is it something that can just be extended that it happens in spring as well? Or anytime that or
Sure.
without it being a master agreement sort of thing? I mean,
Yeah, there's no reason it can't,
okay.
I'm just trying to kind of wrap my head around all of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know, particularly because it's kind of a non-issue with track, just because we don't have
Home event.
we don't have a home venue. And the only meet that we do is that we host is not even at our home. So it really doesn't involve track. But it does, so I'm wondering, and I don't even know, like for baseball and softball, would that look like, if both teams are playing at the same time, is it can one person
I'm sure
manage
one-
both?
Yeah, you
You
can just
know.
walk back and forth.
Yeah, I would think so. So, I mean, it really is more for that, I think, but,
Yeah,
okay. And I don't, yeah, because I'm trying to think, if during the fall I was to host a cross-country, because that is something that could conceivably happen here, then it would be necessary to have somebody there. But
yeah.
I don't anticipate that would be a fight anyway, to try to get someone there, so.
You guys should actually go to those. It's amazing how many people show up to those. It's almost obscene. Hundreds. I was amazed.
If only we could charge for them.
Well, vendor. Yeah, selling food.
So if you want to strike 6.5, and just with the notion that we could consider that for other sports too then. Professional development, I'm going to let Eric address this, because I think you know more about this than I do.
So basically, this is just, we want training for domains 2 and 3 to get more people up to that AP run. And then I want for myself and other teachers with the science test is applicable to them, the science coach from the state to come down and train us. Getting people, 2 and 3, if I remember right, is one of the biggies for advanced professional. So this would be getting more people into that AP run, which means more money into our district from the state.
I think that the way this is phrased is to kind of address the situation that we had, I think, with law enforcement, where if you got an evaluation and it said like you have poor command presence or something like that, that oftentimes you get an evaluation that was less than satisfactory on something, but then no opportunity to get training to make that not the case any longer. So I think that this is kind of with that with that kind of idea in mind, that if you have, if I were to receive a below basic on classroom management, that there would be guaranteed to me, or the opportunity would be provided to me to be able to take some sort of proactive measure to make that not the case anymore, to rise to proficiency.
We talked about this one last year, if you remember. We did the same thing last year. Remember in the pre-meeting, we talked about it? And we talked about how most people are proficient.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, yes, I do. Well, most people are. I guess I'm anticipating not. I don't understand. I can see where after the phrase Danielson framework on line 25, that the language that follows that, I can see where that would be uncomfortable to be in the master agreement, but I don't.
Yes, I'm comfortable.
What?
Yes, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, so I can see striking that, but I don't see striking the language before that, because it is allowing that mentorship, or it's, codifying that it's there.
Well, I don't want to speak for the board. I like it. I don't like it in the master agreement, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, the part after whatever line it was, I don't like that, but, the opportunity for PD to address anything to get up to that distinguished level in 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm.
if they're in the professional or AP run. I do like that. I guess if they're in the AP run, like, if you're just talking money, that doesn't matter, but if you're just talking about quality of teaching, it matters.
And quality of teaching is what matters to me in that respect.
So yeah, I mean, I do like that stuff, I just don't like it in the master agreement, but I like the idea that if someone is not distinguished in 2 or 3, identifying what it is, and some opportunities there to get to that distinguished level.
Yeah.
Would the district be willing to do that?
Which part?
To,
Are you ultimately talking about paying for it?
yeah, pay for PD for getting us up there to those certifications and then the science.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on the year, yeah, definitely, absolutely. We get PD money. Part of the trouble is finding PD.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially lately, but even on a normal year, it's not always easy. But yes, definitely. Yeah. So. And even like the science stuff, like that. I mean, there's nothing uncomfortable about that. I mean, having training is a good thing.
No, it's just a way for you guys to commit to doing it.
Right, I know, but I mean, I don't like it in the agreement, because
I'm okay with it as long as I get a verbal
but of
commitment.
course, of course, professional development is a good thing, and that's why we get a budget for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so can we get PD for those and the science stuff this year?
If it's available, and we can find it, yeah.
Well, the one from the science for sure, and the other one should be 2.
Yeah, I'm open to all of those things.
Okay. Isn't that it for the master agreement? I think that was
You're the holder of
it.
the documents.
I'm holding the document.
Yep. It's on the ed.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, summarize, additions. The 8-day carryover, right? Is that it?
Here's my notes.
Now the fun part.
The previous 2 hours haven't been done.
Self-loathing masochistic sort of way, yeah. Okay, so I want to point out something when I do my proposing of money is we were not given a raise last year. And so there was money brought back by the state. And there's money given on top of that for the next year. And so what I did to make life easier for everybody, I put it in one pot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the percentage increase that I'll be proposing, it's a label. Does that make sense? It's a label. So it's somewhat descriptive, but it's at the end it's not completely descriptive. So if you guys are familiar with,
I know, it doesn't make sense to me, Eric,
Yeah,
so I'm gonna go
Well,
with,
too
sorry.
no, so this is for, I try to make this as simple as possible, believe me. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about how to make this palatable and understandable, because I mean, it's not simple. So if you look at our master agreement in the pay schedule, there's the big
Salary schedule,
the salary schedule. There's a gray area, which is basically it doesn't change.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the proposed salary schedules I will be giving you, there's minimal change to that gray area, and that's to align with state requirements. And there's some increases in that area, but you'll see. And like for instance, I say 10%. That 10% would be an increase on the rates, the current rate of the stuff that's after where that gray area stops. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So you got the gray area that doesn't change, and then the percentage increase kicks in when it's out of that gray area. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's not, that's, when I'm using the percentage increase that I'm talking about is
Is not on base, or not on.
it's on the base,
but
it's
not
not
on
in
the
the gray
gray.
area.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's the label I'm using.
Yeah.
And I want to point out that I'm overestimating the cost on this salary schedule, because the sped positions are reimbursed. Good? And so the big things would be, I'm sure you guys would see, the big things that you're paying attention to is the total cost of increase, and that's on here. But again, that number is an overestimation of what it actually is, because I'm not taking into account the fact sped positions are reimbursed.
The what?
Sped positions.
Special education.
Good? Hopefully my
Can you pass it around?
Chinese is acceptable.
Do you care if I make a photocopy real quick, or do you have an extra one?
Go ahead and make a
I'll make a
photocopy.
photocopy real fast.
So you can,
Can I take yours?
yeah, because Eric and I can share.
I think I realize we're getting older, Eric, you need to make this a little bit bigger.
Trust me, I do try.
We'll get you readers next year, Chad.
So the first one that we're proposing is, oh, one more thing before I get into this. So let's say, so we do 10%, right? We have one, potentially two people that are moving or leaving the district. And because last year was reopened, whatever we approve here today, they get a retroactive paycheck. Does that make sense? So let's say that we approve 10%. So they would get a 5% retroactive pay increase. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I tried to make this as simple as possible.
Splitting it from last year and the new year.
Yes,
Okay.
the increase would be split. So our proposal is a 10% increase on the parts outside of
The grade.
the gray area, but the gray area does have an increase in it. It goes, everybody from, whether you're a bachelor's or PhD, starts out at 40,000. Third year, you go up to 4250, and in between that, unless you're while you're still in the gray area, it goes up to 41,500. And then if you're in the gray area past the third year, it stays at 42,500 until you get out of the gray area. That's when that 10% increase kicks in. And if you look over to the left, it's a breakdown of all the people in the district and their amounts. The new money, the final step at the bottom, final step plus, so the step plus 10% plus the supplemental, that's taking into account the fact that everybody moves down if they can move down, if they're not already at the bottom of it. They've already maxed out their column. Then I would add the 10% and then the supplemental if they had it last year. And the total of that new cost is $41,848. And my calculations is this year and last year, the district has $66,949.99 additional monies from for the last 2 years.
Say that again.
How much?
$66,949
From last year to next year?
Yeah, for both 2 years
Combined.
combined.
Okay.
So this is 2 years combined.
Right.
And so I'm comparing it to the new money from the district for the 2 years combined. Again, to make this as simple as possible. Nothing.
Oh, I just pointed out something.
Damn it.
Can I ask some clarifying questions?
Sure.
Okay, so are you proposing a change to the minimum salary the district pays in certain cells? Like the 41.5,
Yes,
where does that come from?
that would be including the increase from 40 to, so you're talking between 40,000 and 42,500? Where's the number come from?
Sure, yeah.
I tried to make it,
Oh, you know what,
they got something, that's what I wanted.
I see. I think I see what you did there.
It's like if we get new people, we want to keep them in here, so you give them some increase, but they're going to be moving up slower than other. And in the past years, most of the money has been going to the bottom, and we're trying to shift it to the top this year.
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you used the minimum salaries from this current year. Is that correct? Rather than for next year?
Current salaries from,
So like the 2021 minimums on the residency run would be 40, 45, and then 41. The minimums on the residency run for 21-22 start out at 43.69, 49.90, and 41.611. So the minimums, it looks to me, are not correct. But I think that I understand kind of what you were doing there.
so
I have my head wrapped around what you were doing, but if I look at this, and we look at, for this year, here are our minimums in each of the categories. It looks to me like on the salary schedule that you handed us, it's using all of these minimums from this current school year, the 40,000, the 45, and the 41. Is that correct? Or am I wrong?
so the bottom part is 42,500, that's what the state said, right?
So that's for a professional endorsement. So we had 2 teachers that were at 42.5,
Yeah.
even though on the salary schedule they weren't paid that this year. For the professional rung, effective July 1st, 2021, the professional rung is 42,991.
I did not take that part into account right there.
But
I was going off of contracts.
yeah,
I went
2021.
to last year's the
Right.
one you just got done with, and I went through and took all of the numbers off the contracts.
I'm trying to wrap my head around how we negotiate for next year and just sort of retroactively work it in when all of those minimums are different and people are leaving. I can't wrap my head around that. Mathematically, it may work, I just don't know how to do it.
Okay,
I thought we were going to negotiate for this current
and
year,
then next do 2 steps.
do 2 steps.
I was trying to do this way, that way it's all in one stop shop.
And maybe that's easier, I just don't know how to do it.
I noticed that you wisely did not look at me for the number answer there.
So a question for you, that 42,900 or the 41,999, where'd that come from? Is that,
The 42,991.
yeah,
So look at 33,100 4B, 1,000 4B.
what are you talking about?
So foundation program, Idaho
Used to
code
put it.
33,1004B, career ladder.
Okay.
been so many things change here that I'm not 100% that I'm accurate with this, but I think I am.
I do have she pointed out an error that I would like to fix, and it bothers me tremendously that it's there. And I didn't take into account what you've got. So would you guys mind if we stopped here today, and then I could go fix my errors and take that into account, and then we can figure out the money pool. Does that make sense? Come back another day. Get on the same page with the money. Does that make sense?
At some point, we need to get, yeah, the base numbers need to be the same.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Otherwise,
asking.
we're just gonna go round and round.
Yeah, that's why, as experience, that's what will happen,
Right.
okay?
How do we, like what you originally planned as far as negotiating for next year, and then let's say it's whatever it is, 50% of it goes to this year. I don't know how that works.
So, let's say.
So we're just saying 5% and 5% in your example.
So let's say we're calculating on a 5%, so let's say they make 40,000 and that's outside of the gray area. So they get, between the 2 years, we negotiate a 5% increase, right?
Per year.
Per year.
Mhm.
And then that increase on that, the difference between what we just negotiated, the 5 increase, take that pot of money, split it in twain, half now, half later. Does that make sense? Or if they move down, then you take the,
So it really would be 2 steps then, even in the back end. So if we take the salary schedule, we would take, so like on the index, we would take half of whatever we decide on and add it to the base and see what happens, and then do it again for the second round of contracts.
yes,
Is that what you mean?
yeah. I don't know, I'm trying to do this in the least number of steps, the simplest way possible. There's no good way to do this. Unless yeah, 2 rounds of subsequent rounds. You guys want to see what that looks like in like a really bad fashion? Watch the videos of it, Mountain View.
Is that doable? I mean, can we come up with a way to make that work?
Yeah, I mean, we would just take half of it if we did it all at one time. I mean, that's what we would be agreeing on. If it was 10%, then you'd go 5 and 5. If it was 4%, 2 and 2.
Right.
And then just that initial one for this year, it would just result in like a payment to everybody now.
Basically like a one-time payment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would,
it's a retroactive
June,
paycheck.
so July, yeah. And then it would just be the other half on the salary schedule for the 21-22 year is what it would be. So, yeah. Let me talk through this because I need to wrap my head around this.
I guess where I'm wondering is, you've got some, you got, your wheels are turning,
Mm-hmm.
and, for this to work, when we get back together, you two are gonna have to have it figured out that you're both on the same page with the basics. And
Because you have minimums of the 2 different years, you almost have to do it twice, I think, but maybe not. You have to like do the salary schedule where everybody would fall this year with the percentages, and then you'd have to do it again with the new salary schedule with the new people.
Or what if you just did a one-time payment and then just go off, the new one, just go off your old salary schedule with percentage increase?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think you have
So
to do
you're
it twice
saying-
no matter what.
just keep this year as is and add 10% on it. I would be good with that for the one.
10%, but.
Well, no, I know, so that would be the simplest way to do it, but the catch is we have a music teacher that's just resigned, and that'd be unfair to her, and then, you know what I mean? If we didn't have anybody,
Yeah, you kind of need to do
changing.
2 rounds and 2
Yeah.
different calculations.
Right.
Because you
That's what
have two
it's-
different groups of people, and then 2 different salary schedules, because the minimums are gonna be different, so you might have somebody that kind of bumps right above because of the minimum or something, based on where they are on the salary schedule, I think.
so
Right.
you want to do 2 rounds.
Well, I think that's what we're doing anyway,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's no different, I don't think,
it's no.
no. I just think we need to almost look at it in 2 different rounds maybe, or maybe I'm just, can't figure it out. So maybe I need to look at it in 2 different rounds.
Well, it's not, I understand what you're saying, but it's not easy to think about.
I think where you have 2 different bodies of people, though, that makes sense to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
So do you guys want to call it a day, and then Steve and I will get together and figure out, and Kim, she's the money lady, she's the sugar mama, figure out the particulars, and then get back and then negotiate for money.
I think that's probably the only way we'll get,
Because it'll get messy if we don't do that.
I was gonna say, I don't think we'll have any answers otherwise.
It will
Right.
get extremely, from experience, will be extremely unpleasant. It'll be tedious and extreme.
Well, maybe when we come back, just do like what you did for this year, and then just have a second one for the next year.
Okay. You can-
And that, I think that'll be quick.
So, yeah.
But before we come back, making sure that the 2 of you have the same,
number.
Well, he's got
Numbers.
the current salary schedule, so like we're the same.
Yeah,
Like we have the same, I mean, we know everybody's salaries.
yeah.
And if you look,
well, but I thought
what I
you,
showed you, it has the minimums there, and I think that's current and correct.
Yeah,
So you just have to make sure that your minimums align with the state minimums.
yeah, that's
That's it.
which they didn't do. So when I come back, when we come back, what I can do is I'll have, God forbid, hopefully, it'll be a graph like I got on the left here, a table, and then there'll be 3 tables on the right.
with bigger
Okay,
font.
and if I have something wrong here on these minimums, tell me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the change in the minimums is a good reason to do it too, besides the people leaving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, call it a day?
Break it at
Dude,
16.
one quick question. So you started the conversation with pointing out the 2-year delta was at 66,949.
According to the stuff I get from the union, the total in new money for the last 2 years is 66,949.99.
Is that something that,
It's all an estimate for next year. I don't know what units you used. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like, we know how much we got this year compared to last year, but how much we're gonna get next year compared to this year, it's just a guess.
yeah, and at the end of the day too, so I keep my numbers into what the union gave me, underneath what the union gave me, right? And my experience is the total pool of money we never agree on. We're relatively close, but we never agree on. But we need to be able to speak the same mechanism. Does that make sense? We need to have the same language.
So do you know how many units your union went on for the 21-22 year, based off of?
21, 22.
So,
1705?
no, that's 2021. 1704.
Let me see. '21, '22, let me see. Yeah, 1705.
Okay.
Is that what we have?
Now, we budgeted on 16.74, I think is what it was, but it's just a guess. We're never gonna be the same on that.
So this is what, 1705 is what we got from the state. So that's what the difference is. That's your budget, this is what you give the state, two different things.
Okay.
You always short that, so.
Yeah, well, it's
nature of these.
it's easier to short than overdo it and come up short or whatever, so.
Yeah, it's prudent. So, yep,
But it's just a guess, you don't ever know.
We're generally somewhere between 16 and 17 units, so. Okay, do we want to set a date now, or do we want to work on that?
I would wait. So I have to, what I'm gonna have to do is sit down
Okay.
and then we'll let you know. I want this over as soon as possible if it's any consolation.
If you can make some business on, right?
What's that?
Like Thursday on.
Yeah, first half of the week's tough for me, so Thursdays and Fridays are